Welcome to my channel. I'm Karl. Today's video will cover creating a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. What's a pivot table? A pivot table is a built-in tool in Microsoft Excel that helps you analyze your data by allowing you to perform quick calculations, make comparisons, and see trends. Let's get started. In front of us is a sample spreadsheet containing employee work hours for the first week of August. A typical work week should have 40 hours. We will create a pivot table to determine if any employee is missing time and what type of absence was used the most. When creating a pivot table, you'll need to first format your data as a table. To format your data, press Ctrl+Shift+8. The shortcut is a real time saver as it will capture your information listed in all columns and rows. So remember, use Ctrl+Shift+8 if you wish to select all your data. Then on the top menu, click Home, then click Format as Table. You can select any style you like. On the Create Table window, select My Table has headers, and then click OK. The second step is optional, but I always perform it because it saves me time, and this is naming the table. When you name a table, all you have to remember is the name of the table that contains your data. You don't have to remember the sheet where that data table is located. You don't need to remember how wide number of columns and how deep number of rows your data spans. To name the table, select the table by pressing Ctrl+Shift+8. Then on the top menu, click Formulas, and then click Name Manager. On the Name Manager window, click New. The new name window will display. Enter a name in the name field. For this example, I'm going to keep it simple and enter data. Then I'm going to click OK. After clicking OK, you'll see the Name Manager window. Click Close. After formatting the data as a table and naming the table, we are ready to build a pivot table. Note you can create the pivot table in the same sheet where your data is located or create the pivot table in a new sheet. The steps that follow will be the same regardless if you decide to create the pivot table in the same sheet as your data or on a new sheet. I'll create the pivot table in the same sheet so that you can see both the data and the pivot table side by side. To the right of the table, I'll select an empty cell. Then on the top menu, click Insert, and then click Pivot Table. On the Pivot Table window, in the Table Range field, enter Data. This is where naming a table will save you time, as you only need to remember the table name and enter it in the Table Range field. If you didn't name your table, then you will need to select the sheet your table is located in and then select all the columns and rows that contain your data. But since we gave our table a name, we simply enter the table name Data and then click OK. After clicking OK, Excel will create a pivot table container. On the right section, the Pivot Table Fields panel will display. Notice on the top section of the Pivot Table Fields panel, the data table column headings are listed. Then, below are 4 boxes, filters, columns, rows, and values. Determining which column heading to drag to the 4 boxes will take some experimenting. However, if you make a mistake, just select the column heading, then drag and drop it out of the box. For example, if I drag employee to the rows box, then decided I don't like it to display in the rows box, I would select it, and then drag and drop it outside the box, anywhere, and it's gone. Alright, let's build the pivot table and answer the 2 questions. One, which employees are missing time, and which absence type is used the most. First, I'm going to drag and drop employee in the rows box. Then, I'll add attribute underneath employee. Then, I'll add date under attribute. Now to view the hours entered on each day, I'm going to drag hours to values. With the pivot table built, we can answer the first question: which employees are missing time? Looking at the table, we see only Gabby Davis is missing time. She only recorded 24 hours, while the others recorded 40 hours. For the second question, what type of absence was used the most, we will modify the pivot table by dragging attribute to the columns box. The pivot table will adjust and show all absence types side by side, including work hours and their total hours. Let's hide work hours so that the table only shows absent types. Click on the columns label button and unselect work, then click OK. So the most used absence type is vacation with 32 hours. And that's how a pivot table works. If you're not using pivot tables, I encourage you to try them when analyzing data. You'll be amazed. It's easy, it's powerful, and they are a time saver. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you haven't already done so, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.